Well, hello everyone, and welcome to EllieMD's live educational series. We're so glad you could be here to continue our mission to empower healthier, longer lives through education, innovation, and community. At EllieMD, we go beyond telehealth to bring you expert-led conversations that support your wellness journey. Today, we're excited, so excited, to welcome Sally Sykes, founder of Empowered Health Consultants. With over 15 years of experience in functional medicine, Sally is passionate about helping people get to the root of their health challenges, especially in areas like insulin resistance, weight loss, hormone balance, and women's health. Her personal journey is just as inspiring. After reversing her own type 2 diabetes and losing her father to Alzheimer's, Sally left her legal career to pursue a path of health coaching. Sally, we're so excited to have you back. We have some familiar faces, some new individuals on this call today. Can you tell us a little about your transition from law to health coaching and what inspired you to take the leap?
Law, if you know any lawyers, you know it's not the most satisfying job. I had a great job. I was doing in-house work, legal work for the University of Texas system. So, I was also using my master's in public affairs and doing like legal drafting, like drafting legislation. And it was fine. But when my dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, I started to really take my health more seriously because I started researching it. And it turns out there's really no cure for it. But the root cause of Alzheimer's and heart disease and all of the diseases of aging that we see in the West turns out is insulin resistance. And it can be low thyroid and low hormones and nutrient deficiencies and inflammation as well. And then soon after he died, I was diagnosed with type 2. And I thought, uh-oh, type 2 diabetes makes you double at risk for Alzheimer's disease. They call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, right?
Isn't that incredible? Outside of the US, that's what they call it. It's
That's
like,
exactly
why
what
haven't we coined that term here in America?
it's insulin resistance of the brain. They call PCOS insulin resistance of the ovaries, right? It's the same root cause. So I got more and more into this. I actually started with functional fertility, helping my friends get pregnant who were not getting pregnant and were being forced into expensive IVF, and they weren't even aware that they could take their temperature every day and find out when they were ovulating. They weren't even being instructed on like if you do the deed when you ovulate, guess what? You're more likely to get pregnant. And I got three friends pregnant in 3 months. Both of them avoided IVF. So it was really exciting. And they were in their 30s. And, of course, if you're older, you might need to still be helped. So that was exciting. It was too late to help my dad, but I started down my own path. And boy, I don't know if you guys have this experience going to conventional medical doctors, but the amount of condescension I received and just eat less, exercise more, put down the carbs and, well, there's really nothing I can do. Nobody will change their behaviors, just not helpful. And from unhealthy practitioners themselves, like they didn't know how to eat themselves. So what were they going to tell me to do? Um, and so I just decided to use my legal research mind to start researching health issues. And I read books, I listened to podcasts, I read studies. Um, the first book I read was a great book. If you have Alzheimer's in your family, go grab this one. It's called The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen, Dr. Dale Bredesen. And he outlines a whole program for dementia prevention, right? Like optimizing thyroid and hormones, avoiding insulin resistance, nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, all these factors go into whether or not you get Alzheimer's, whether or not it runs in your family, if you have the gene or not. Genes are just load the gun and we pull the trigger with our lifestyle. So I was like, there is hope. We're going to do this. My kids are going to do this. And his book has this really cool table of all these labs. They're labs that I had gotten my whole life, but he had different ranges. He had optimal ranges for disease prevention, for dementia prevention. And they were totally different from the normal ranges that I knew about, right? And it turns out, so I did a little more digging. It turns out the normal ranges are just the averages of all the sick people getting those labs at that particular lab. So if you go through your labs like from 20 years ago, you'll see different optimal range, different normal ranges. And then you'll see different normal ranges if you get it at Quest or LabCorp or clinical pathology labs or wherever you go. And I thought, well, I want to be optimal. I don't want to be just average for the average sick American. That doesn't sound fun. And it's going to get me diabetic and get me Alzheimer's. And so I said, I'm going to look up. I was like, Google has this. What are the functional lab ranges, the optimal ranges for all the labs? And it was like, it varies. There's no list. And I made my own list. So I have a huge spreadsheet now it's been about 15, 20 years that I'm continuing to add to. Of all the most common labs, the conventional normal ranges from different labs, which of course vary, and then the optimal ranges that through research and reading studies and working with different excellent functional medicine practitioners and reading books by MDs that I have learned are the ranges we need to aim for disease prevention and feeling our best. And so when someone hires me to do an in-depth lab analysis, that is the spreadsheet I'm using to analyze their lab. So, you go to your doctor and you get your labs done and you're saying, I can't lose weight, my hair is falling out, my libido is gone, um, you know, it, I have brain fog, I'm so fatigued, and your doctor says, well, your labs look normal. Well, they are normal for the average sick American, right? And so it ends up with this phenomenon of medical gaslighting, right? Where they're just like, no, you're fine. And you're like, but the house is on fire, you know? And there's nothing more frustrating than that. So that's why I really love functional medicine. They're looking at the root cause, they're using optimal ranges. And that's what I do in my practice is help patients analyze their labs, learn how to look for optimal ranges and aim for those, not the normal ranges. And then I help them find practitioners and telemedicine operations like Ellie to help them achieve their goals.
Oh, I love that. And Sally, I just recently learned this too, that those ranges that doctors use are regionally based. So if you go to Quest in a very unhealthy state, perhaps, or a local region in that unhealthy state, you're like just part of the average and collection sample of that particular. So it's wild. Like if you live in a healthy environment, the optimal ranges are different than um, yeah, and then the ranges have changed so much since the 70s and 80s until now. I mean, I'm glad you're talking about this and you've created and compiled your own list.
And I was like, I
Um,
just got it. It's like all women. We just have to do it ourselves. We just, right. Like
yeah.
nobody's coming to save us, especially beyond childbearing years, right? We're no longer of use. We're like, you go to your doctor and it's like, oh, I don't want to hear all this fussing. Just here's your
Mhm.
antidepressant, your anti-anxiety med, and your sleeping pill. Just go away, be quiet, stop bothering us. No, we have a lot more to give. We have a
Mhm.
whole rest of our lives to be our best selves and bring our gifts to the world. We
We
owe
got to
that.
bring you on just to do a segment on hormones because of the misinformation. I mean, women have been had such a disservice when it comes to our hormones and
It's
hormone
so
therapy.
sad.
The
Our parents,
misinformation. Yeah.
especially, were ripped off of hormones because of that now debunked WHI study.
We'll talk about that. We're going to do another segment just on hormones. We got to talk more about it. But let's start with you've helped so many people address root causes and reclaim their health. Why do you believe sexual wellness is such a key, yet often overlooked part of that journey?
Sexual wellness is wellness. I mean, we don't want to talk about it. We come from a pretty conservative, like puritanical society. But when women come to me, the first thing they say is, I don't feel like myself. And I told my doctor this, and they told me I was crazy or to get a psychiatrist or something. But really, our hormones are what make us who we are. And having a libido is so much more than you're being interested in sex. What I found when I was on the birth control pill, which takes your testosterone to zero, I had no libido whatsoever. And I did not feel like myself because it's more than wasn't interested in sex, but I also didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I wasn't excited to get dressed or look pretty. I wasn't listening to music. I was just listening to news and podcasts. Like the joy in my life was gone. The confidence was gone. Um, everyone is born with a unique amount of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone that combines to make you you. And that's what I think practitioners get a little bit confused when they're trying to replace hormones in women because we're all a little bit different in what our optimal doses and ranges are. And it's really not that complicated. I help patients with that all the time so they know what to ask their doctors for. But it is a little bit of an art. And it affects you think of libido as like, oh, this is just a vanity thing, but it affects relationships. I always say patients who replace hormones together stay together. You know, you don't want him getting testosterone and you not. Get yours checked too. But it really does affect your relationship and how good you feel. And confidence. It really does.
But
Anybody
it's
else?
also an indicator of like something else is going on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is. low libido can be an indicator of, we think of testosterone as the libido hormone, but I always say it's all three. And it can even be thyroid and insulin resistance and nutrient deficiencies too. But we think of testosterone mostly when we come to libido, and it is a big libido enhancer. I'll tell you that personally. But so are progesterone and estrogen. So estrogen is going to help you be all of your tissues be more juicy. So it helps with wrinkles, helps with lubrication, all of that helps. I noticed it immediately when I put on my estradiol patch. I was like, oh, I think I need to call my fiance over here. But progesterone, I love for libido that nobody talks about. Progesterone is so beautiful. It starts to go down after the age of 35 because we make progesterone when we ovulate. And after 35, we don't ovulate as often. So we get heavier periods, sore breasts, estrogen dominance, but it also causes poor sleep and anxiety. So that, women are going to the doctor and they're getting a sleeping pill and Xanax when they don't have a Xanax deficiency. They probably have a progesterone deficiency, right? And that's how we look at it in functional medicine. Sort of two different types of prescription medications, right? We're not afraid to use prescription medications. The practices I work with, they use them all the time. But if you're in functional medicine, you really like the ones that are replacing something your body already makes and knows what to do with. And in that category, we like to put the top three are bioidentical hormone replacement, bioidentical thyroid hormone replacement, and GLP-1s because we make our own endogenous GLP-1. And I see this in practice all the time. Patients with overweight, obesity, prediabetes, and diabetes, which is 94% of Americans, have a deficiency of endogenous GLP-1. And so we're just putting back what our bodies would normally make, but for toxins, age, chronic stress, lack of sleep. I mean, we're living in a soup. And so it really works with the body to put that back, right? We don't have a phentermine deficiency, but we might have a GLP-1 deficiency. And I really like that. It's very gentle on the body, especially when dosed appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll chat a little bit more about that, but you touched on progesterone going down around the age of 35. How do these other hormones change and affect libido different throughout different life stages?
Yeah. So, our hormones in our teens and 20s are when in your teens, girls are starting their periods earlier and earlier. But really, if that early adolescence period, you can kind of compare it to perimenopause, which is so fun because a lot of us, I'm 52 and I have an 18-year-old daughter. So I'm still in late perimenopause. I was in my late 40s, late perimenopause, when she was starting her period in her early teens. That's a time where she is ramping up her fertility. So she's not ovulating every month, but she's starting to. It's like starting the engine, but she's not ovulating every month. So she's low in progesterone and estrogen dominant, sore breasts, heavy periods, mood swings, right? Oh, guess what happens on the back end when we're easing into menopause? The same thing in reverse. We're not ovulating as often. We have sore boobs. We have estrogen dominance. We're moody. And so many households are like, the mother-daughter are just like this. And my daughter and I are both on progesterone. And we get along so well. And she comes over and puts her head in my lap. And I'm like, I'm so glad because I'm telling you, I was screaming at my mother when I was a teenager. We had no help from the doctors with any progesterone because progesterone is also used for PMS. And it's so great for younger girls. Very gentle. They can take it just like the last 10 days before their period. Helps to lighten up cycles and help with PMS. It's so much healthier than going on the birth control pill, unless you have to and you need it for birth control, of course, which we don't want unplanned pregnancies, but lots of options out there. Oh, I am
And then
52.
estrogen and testosterone, if you could just touch on
Oh, and
those,
then
those
estrogen,
two.
testosterone. So estrogen it just really helps with the lubrication more than anything else. But I swear I don't know. So estrogen keeps all of our joints juicy. It just plumps us up. Like when we get low estrogen, mine dropped to 99 a few months ago, and I was like, ugh. Like I just felt like a dried up desert. And it affected my mental health and it just affected everything down there. It was a little more uncomfortable, everything was, even sex. And when I got on the estradiol patch, and then I got estriol is a different kind of estrogen. There are three different estrogens. Estradiol is the young woman's estrogen. That's the one you have in the patch. That's systemic. You want that everywhere. Estriol is a weak estrogen, but it's really great for vaginal dryness. It's wonderful and it can prevent UTIs. So huge. If you've got chronic UTIs and you're in your 40s, try getting, you can even buy estriol cream over the counter. And the estrone is the menopausal estrogen that we're kind of trying to avoid. So we want to pack in the two good ones and not have that one. But yeah, it's enormously helpful. I definitely noticed, I don't know, I just felt like there was more sensation when I put the estradiol patch on. But that's the same with testosterone. And then with progesterone, it's like low progesterone makes you anxious and you can't sleep. So who wants to have sex when you're anxious and you haven't slept? So that's where I feel like it sort of indirectly helps, right? And helps with headaches too, like this common like I have a headache. It really helps with that. I've seen patients have been on a migraine medicine for years and were able to stop once they started progesterone, which is super exciting because migraines are awful. I've only had one or two my whole life and just I do not wish that on my worst enemy. Let's
So, Sally, we have some gentlemen on the call. For the men, what's responsible for their sexual dysfunction as, as they progress in age? Is it mainly testosterone? Are there other factors at play? Is it like heart health issues, both for men and women? But let's speak to the men a little bit as well.
Yeah. So the number one for men is going to be metabolic health, right? So blood and it's like blood flow, right? So when we're insulin resistant, we have a belly, that kind of thing, we don't have as good of a blood flow, and so we can experience some erectile dysfunction, which is normal. Also, so men also experience something called andropause, but it's just different. Our hormones just kind of drop, and we're just like, ugh, what just happened? For men, it's a slower decline, and it really varies. Overall, I will say that men's testosterone globally is about half of what it was a generation ago, or especially 2 generations ago, due to xenoestrogens and poor diet. High carb diets are um, very responsible for that. They really increase estrogen in men, man boobs, bellies, all that kind of stuff, and lower testosterone in men. But once they can add like a GLP-1 to help them lower carbohydrate consumption. Their testosterone will start to go up, and then they can add on some testosterone if they still need it at the end. Most guys feel best when it's about 800 to 1100, but everyone's a little different. Again, the standard lab ranges for testosterone for men on the labs are very low because testosterone is half of what it used to be in all men now, which is super sad. But there are guys, there's some personal trainers I know, they have somebody they train who's, I think, 70, and he came back with a testosterone of 600, which is incredible, and he feels great. And so he's just hanging, he has no dysfunction, he's in great shape. So cardiometabolic health is huge. Just aging is going to go down. So replacing it is, we're not getting it back. It's just like menopause, we're not getting it back, so might as well replace. My own partner has been on it for a long time. It's really changed his life. He's on GLP-1, testosterone, and Armour thyroid, and he's not on a statin anymore. He's no longer insulin resistant. He's lost probably 30 pounds. You've seen him. I mean, he's not, he doesn't look like he's roided out, but he's well muscled now. He used to go to the gym all the time, but because of the insulin resistance and the low testosterone, it was in the 300s, now it's in the 700s. He just wasn't getting the results, and it was really frustrating. And so now, yeah, he's very happy about his performance and everything. What he says most about testosterone hormone replacement is that his brain is on fire. I mean, he started a new company since then. And he just feels like he has so much energy.
And women also have testosterone. So what role does testosterone play in women
It's
particularly?
huge, you guys. I mean, I have this shirt on, but I can't tell. Like, since I've been doing, I don't know if you can see my muscles here, but I've always been this pretty, fairly, small boned person, hard to put on muscle mass. And I've been on testosterone for a while, but I switched to injections in the last year. And I've been working with a trainer twice a week. And my DEXA scan showed that I put on 4 pounds of muscle mass. I increased my bone density and I lost visceral fat. So I'd been working out before, but I wasn't getting the results. And it's really important for women as we age we think of estradiol as the hormone to prevent osteoporosis, but testosterone is really critical as well because we also need muscle mass, and testosterone does help with bone density as well. Yeah, very, very, very important.
So let's talk about cortisol because cortisol it blocks a lot of these pathways. And with stress comes high cortisol, low sleep, and so forth. Can we touch on stress, sleep, and nutrition and how that influences sexual desire
It's
and
so big and it's
satisfaction?
so hard because we all live such stressful lives. And I used to hate it when people would, doctors tell me, just you need to manage your stress. And I'm like, you don't live my life. I'm in the middle of a terrible divorce. I'm driving my kids everywhere. I'm not sleeping, because of perimenopause, all these things. But over time, I did kind of learn to manage it. One of the big things for me was coming off the birth control pill. Everyone on the birth control pill, if you get your AM cortisol tested, you will notice your AM cortisol is way out of range, and that's just what the birth control pill does. It disrupts our ability to handle stress. And so that was a pretty big deal coming off of it. Brought it back down to normal. And I work with patients who have very low morning cortisol. So our cortisol is supposed to spike in the morning to give us energy in the morning, and it's supposed to slowly go down throughout the day and stay low. So if you get your AM cortisol tested, that's a simple blood test, and it's really low. It's like 5 or 8 or something. It should be like 11 to 19. Then you can look at an over-the-counter adrenal glandular supplement. Those are very easy, and just try taking one in the morning. If you feel like, oh, I have my energy back, I can get myself out of bed. Another symptom is I can't get out of bed in the morning. That's a really, really good one. NAD plus helps with that for just the fatigue. We love using that when we travel. It just, when your circadian rhythm is off, and it really helps to boost, and glutathione too. Just helps to keep that motor running.
And there's also DHEA, pregnenolone, right? Those also
Yes,
help with
exactly. I use
that.
both of those as well, and they're over the counter.
Hmm. Um, can we talk about what role emotional connection and mental well-being play in sexual desire and sexual health? Because we just launched the Thrill Pill. It has oxytocin in it. So maybe you touch on emotional connection.
It's so helpful. We as women are so mental. I know I am. Like as far as sexual, it's not just how I feel down there. It's how I feel up here that makes all the difference in the world. And if you've got a partner that you're not really connecting with, that can be kind of a deal killer. But if you got someone you love and you're best friends and you're able to communicate, the oxytocin that's in the Thrill Pill is, I have oxytocin spray already, and I'm dying to try the Thrill Pill. It's just so nice because it just offers that extra boost of connection with your person when even while you're just like laying down together and talking and connecting, because we've got to have some lead up, right? I mean, and it's a really good addition. I love that addition. Oxytocin is what is made when we breastfeed, and it fosters that connection between baby and child, but also fosters connection between humans,
Mhm.
and can be great. Now, if you're with a partner who's just a nasty person, then we need to talk about that. I've been there. Sometimes there are people we just can't work with, and yeah, you're not alone, and you don't need to stick it out. But yeah, it's a super exciting thing because, who wants to work hard on a relationship and then have it not work for whatever reason? We want to do all we can.
So let's touch on GLP-1 medications and how they affect sexual wellness directly or indirectly.
So much, you guys. It's crazy. GLP-1s, people think I'm like, oh, it's a miracle drug. And I feel like I'm selling on like QVC or something, but I swear, like, it's crazy. I'm gonna put this study in the notes because I just love it so much. It's called glucagon like peptide 1. There it is, a multifaceted anti-inflammatory agent. And this, you guys, you don't have to read the whole thing, but oops, come back here. See figure 4, especially. It's going to show you all of the things that GLP-1s do in the body. They have nothing to do with weight loss. Just scroll down and check that out. You're welcome. It's insane. So when it comes to libido and weight loss, like I said, so insulin resistance in men causes low testosterone and low libido from that. And then insulin resistance in women can sometimes cause infertility, right? If you're not fertile, you're not ovulating, it's going to affect your libido. And so
By the
it's
way, we didn't get the
Oh,
study?
I just sent it to one person. I am going to
Oh,
send it one more time
yeah,
right
you
now.
have to send it to everyone.
I
To
know.
everyone.
Holly's like, I'm special. A good group meeting chat. There we go. Here we go. There you go. Now everyone
There
gets
you go. Okay, go to study four, guys, when you get a chance.
that. It's,
And we'll
yes,
save
it
it
is
too.
figure four.
Figure
Yes.
four.
Yes. There you go. So yeah, I mean, I've seen it improve erectile function. I've seen it improve just how long people like refractory period. And because blood flow improves, when you improve metabolic health, you improve sexual health. They're connected. So that's the number one thing that people can do, both sexes really, to improve sexual function because it affects our hormones so much. And you want to be hormonally optimized. And insulin resistance so affects all of our hormones, really does.
Mm. Have you seen improvements in libido or confidence in your patients that are on GLP-1?
Yeah, it's huge, right? You want to feel
Yeah.
good about your body. And so, a lot of patients, they have great relationships with their spouses and they love them no matter what they look like, but they don't feel good in their own skin, right? And
Mhm.
so, getting down to that weight where you feel most comfortable, whatever that is, because, everyone right now, you can probably think of the weight where you feel most comfortable. If you could wave a magic wand, you would love to be there. And that's where you feel like you can kind of get your swagger back. And that's very doable with a lot of the things that we're talking about today. And everybody deserves that. It's not a vanity situation. You improve your health, you improve your mental health, you improve your libido, your relationships, everything. And I think, with GLP-1s, the food noise, the freedom from intrusive thoughts of food that it creates. I've had patients tell me that it's allowed them, it almost gives them, somebody said this gave me 4 hours back per day of just mental clarity and emotional labor, just of not having to think about what I'm going to eat, feeling guilty about food. And that allowed them to connect more deeply with their partners, with their children, with their friends. Like Jonathan starting his own business was like, oh, I've got more mental capacity. I'm going to start a new business because it really does. People talk about it, really takes up a lot of mental space, worrying about, oh, I'm not happy with my body. My clothes don't fit. I now have to go buy new clothes. My doctor's telling me my cholesterol's high or I'm pre-diabetic, and that's stressful. And every time you open the fridge, you're like, oh gosh, what am I going to eat? It's like a landmine, right? And so getting that under control is just such a lifesaver for so many patients.
Sally, I get asked this question once in a while, and I've asked several doctors. I'd like to ask you. So, obviously, as you know, the studies have come out where GLP-1s can also help with alcohol, like people don't desire alcohol or smoking, or it reduces all these like
Yeah.
smoking cessation and shopping addiction and so
Ah,
forth.
doom scrolling.
Does it have a negative side? Does it have negative side effects on sexual desire? If have you heard of anything like that?
Not heard of that one. That's a great
Okay.
question, though. That
Yeah.
is such a great question. I have not heard of that. For most of the patients I work with, they see a lot of relief for anxiety, depression, even especially ADHD. It seems to calm the brain.
Mhm.
It does. If you look at that study, it lowers neuroinflammation, which is the cause of many mental health struggles. But what I have seen in a few patients where they have some increased sort of sadness on this at first. It's those patients who were using food for a long time as a coping mechanism and a dopamine hit. And they're having to find now different ways now that they don't have those cravings. They're having to find different ways to find that joy and cope with the stress in their lives or past trauma. And so for them, we will refer out to really excellent mental health professionals, and they work with them, and they get really good results because it's hard because we've all, I mean, for a lot of cultures, food is love, and it's just it's you can get in trouble with your mom if you don't eat her pie, and it can be a whole issue in your family, right? Um,
Mhm.
and so it's all part of the journey is learning to take care of yourself,
Mm.
stand
So
up for.
someone in the chat asked, well, let me ask you this question. If I'm estrogen dominant, will GLP-1s work for me? I know it's very hard to lose weight if you're estrogen dominant. Can you quickly touch on
Yeah,
that?
I mean, this is what I love about GLP-1s. They'll work for everybody. You just might need a different dose than somebody who's, not estrogen dominant or, people with Hashimoto's, insulin resistance, in menopause and not replacing hormones. Those, if you're on the birth control pill, those patients need higher doses of GLP-1 to get results. But if you're estrogen dominant, ask your doctor about oral micronized progesterone. Start with 100 milligrams, go up from there. Yeah, estrogen dominance I had that. Oof. And that's really rough in perimenopause. But yeah, it's so easy to take at night, helps you sleep, calms you down. Nature's Xanax, love it, love it, love it, and lightens up periods. And I shouldn't even say this, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think. I will even use it to delay my period if I need to for vacation. I'll just take a little more than usual because my prescription is written for 200 to 400 milligrams a night. So I'll just take more and it will just take your period out
Delay things
yeah, well,
for
just
a
a
while
very,
until after the vacation.
yeah,
I
100%.
love it. Little. So this is a good segue into our next topic. Someone asked, "What is the thrill pill, girl? You don't know what the thrill pill is about." Look at Carly smiling. I see you, Carly.
I know. And you
Made a
guys,
great video on this. You guys should check it out. But can you explain what the thrill pill is, and then we'll talk about PT-141 in particular, but maybe touch on each component of the thrill pill.
thrill pill is such a great name, but it almost sounds like, oh gosh, what are they trying to sell me? Is it too good to be true? Whatever. No, okay, but I was telling Honey, I want to try this because I already take all three ingredients separately, but I want the one-stop shop. This is great. And it sounds so easy
I'm
with
all about it. The
all of
one-stop shop.
So it has three ingredients: tadalafil, which is the active ingredient, and Cialis, which is a longer acting vasodilator. So helps with blood flow, helps with blood flow to the scalp. Oh, by the way, for hair loss, helps with blood flow for better pump at the gym, helps with blood flow to the genitals for women and men. So helps with orgasm strength and just sensation down there. So amazing. So I've been on that for a while. It also has oxytocin, which we just talked about, which helps you bond with your partner. And then it has PT-141, which is also known as bremelanotide, or yeah. And this is a peptide, little chain of amino acids that works in the brain to improve desire. So if the Cialis or the tadalafil is helping you with your libido through blood flow, increasing blood flow, the PT-141 is working in your brain on desire. So it helps you want it more, right? And then the tadalafil helps you feel it more, I guess, want it more, feel it more. And then the oxytocin is to feel more connected with your partner, which I think is the trio for us women. We did all of these things. So yeah, and I mean, I have loved them separately, but if I could have one thing, that sounds amazing.
I just read Trisha Boozer. She wrote, "I just put it under my tongue. I'm on this chat for 20 minutes and then I'm out." Trisha, you naughty girl.
How
Um,
long does it take to take effect? Is it pretty
20
quick?
minutes. Yeah,
20 minutes.
20 minutes. That's why Trisha's only on for another 20 minutes. Lucky for you, we're stopping at 5. So
Okay.
good timing, Trisha. But can you share with us why would someone just take PT-141 on its own versus the thrill
Yeah,
pill? And where can one benefit the other?
that's a great question. I mean, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you could take PT-141, like maybe if your doctor says you're not a candidate for tadalafil, but that's very few people. And it's just there are a lot of functional medicine clinics who now have all of their patients on a low dose of it just for heart health. So, but of course, that's an ask your doctor always. And oxytocin, if you have too much of it, you can just have other side effects, which I've had before when I was breastfeeding. You'll have you could start like quasi lactating. I've actually had that before with too much. But it's really, I haven't seen that. And I think that you could easily just try the PT-141 if you wanted. It's available in injection and the nasal spray, right? So if you wanted to just ease into it and see, because I know some patients just are like, well, I want to know what's doing what. And I'm kind of one of those people who's like, let's try this and just see, and then maybe I'll try the combo. And see if it works for you. And you can try, especially if you don't like needles, you can try the spray. If you're already doing needles, I don't know, honey, do you think you can put the PT in with the GLP?
That's
Combine it?
something.
I mean,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. I mean, but if you have both at home, you might be able to draw it up in the
A
same.
one-stop shop, but you shouldn't use PT-141 more than a couple times a week, right? A
Correct.
couple times a month. So that's the only thing.
Well, PT-141 will also reduce your appetite a little bit. And so
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. How
that
and why it does that. Why is it called the Barbie
the
shot?
Barbie peptide, it will help you give you a little bit of tan and it will lower your appetite a little bit and it will really improve your libido and your sensation. It's
Just
for
like
me,
Barbie. You'll just need a Ken at that point. That's
that's exactly right. I mean, it really does. Jonathan knows when I'm on it based on my reactivity. Like he's like, "You took PT-141." I was like, "No, I didn't, I swear." Like, but
you
it's really
sneaky,
helpful.
sneaky.
Um, but when I inject it, for me, it takes about 4 hours to take effect. So I'm
Mhm.
excited about the thrill pill. If it's 20 minutes, that's
20
great.
minutes. One and done. So someone wrote, so curious, would thrill pill interfere with any blood pressure medications? Since
Not,
it's a vasodilator, don't want my BP to stop too low or drop too low. I'm sorry.
that's a great question. So let's see. And you can always ask, it's always great to keep all your doctors in the loop about all the medications you're on. PT-141 can increase blood pressure and lower heart rate after each dose. People with uncontrolled high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease advised not to use PT-141 for this effect. May interact with medications that target blood pressure, potentially altering, let's see, intranasal forms of PT-141 can cause a stronger increase in blood pressure and should be avoided with those with hypertension. That's interesting. So thrill pill even better. So I would say just ask your doctor. It sounds like they can be taken together. You might just need to adjust your dose of blood pressure meds, right?
Mhm.
And the best cure for high blood pressure is a low carb diet. So it's amazing. We retain 3 grams of water for every gram of carbohydrate we consume. So the root cause of high blood pressure is literally carbohydrate consumption. And so Dr.
Okay.
Mark Hyman likes to say, don't blame salt and fat for what sugar and starch did. So it's really wild when you go to the low carb, high good fat, high protein, high nutrient density way of eating, your blood pressure will start to come down naturally. So we always tell our GLP-1 patients to, if you're on a blood pressure med, always track it at home and stay in touch with your prescribing doctor because you may need to lower it. It will not, we've seen this, I've tracked this for patients. You will not see like a sudden drop in your blood pressure on a GLP-1, but it will come down slowly over time. And so you may need to stay in contact with your prescriber to see if you need to lower it or come off of it even, especially on a GLP.
Mm, I love that. Thank you. Um, so how do you recommend introducing supportive therapies like the thrill pill, PT-141, and conversations around sexual wellness? How do we talk about this?
What I love doing is fixing the metabolism first, honestly, because it's all these underlying conditions, right? There are some physicians who won't even prescribe hormones or peptides until the metabolism is healed on a GLP-1, or with, if they can do it with like a low carb diet, but that takes longer. And honestly, we've all heard the diet and exercise stuff before. It's just ridiculous. And just doesn't work, or we'd all be there because we've all been doing it. So, that's the safest way to go is to kind of clean up that metabolic mess. And then you have a nice, clean, healthy slate to work with and to add on those hormones and peptides. But you can try them, but they are not going to undo an unhealthy diet, right? So what we don't want to see is patients who are not making the diet and lifestyle changes and they're just piling on peptides in order to just continue doing what they're doing. And that's not this population, and it's not the populations I work with in the clinics I work with, but there are people out there just getting it from med spas and just going on their merry way and binge drinking and eating Twinkies and doing all the things. Those people are going to stay metabolically unhealthy, and then you could end up with just more potential side effects with these other things. So I would say if you're going to choose one to start with the GLP-1 and then add on things from there as you get more and more healthy.
Mm. Guys, put your questions in the comment section. I'd love to ask Sally some of your questions. So I'm going to start reading some of the questions that came in. Um, is there a target number our testosterone should be around when we're in our 50s? And is urine, blood, or saliva the best way to test Hormones. Oh, hormones are tough to test. What's your thought about this, Sally?
Well, I just do
Hormones are
blood.
a
I
tough
mean,
one for women.
I just recommend blood, honestly. It's kind of the gold standard. You can do if you're worried about breast cancer, you can do a Dutch test and see if you're metabolizing estrogen down the wrong pathway. And that's helpful. You can take some DIM and calcium D-glucarate to make sure that you're metabolizing down the healthy pathway. But honestly, blood tests are great. If you're cycling, you want to test your testosterone and your estrogen and your FSH and DHEA on day 3 to 5 of your cycle. Day 1 is the first day of your period. And you want to test progesterone about 7 days before your period. And I say that because it's often referred to as day 21 of your cycle. But a lot of us, like me, have a 30-day cycle, right? So that's day 23 of your cycle. We're trying to catch that peak of progesterone. So for most accurate results, just count back 7 days from however long your period is. Optimal testosterone for women in functional medicine is about 50 to 70. I will tell you it varies quite a bit. 60 might be too much for you. I like mine at 200. The way you know you're at your optimal, you want to also get your free testosterone tested. That's your active, available for use testosterone, not just your total. But you'll know if you have too much because you'll have symptoms of high testosterone, like chin hairs, acne, hair loss, abdominal weight gain, irritability, those kind of things. My testosterone's 200, my free testosterone's 10 to 12. This is where I feel my best. And it's allowing me to build muscle mass. My doctors are thrilled with my labs, all that. So work with your practitioner, work with someone who will allow you to personalize it to you, and not just say, this is the range. But the range for women, I think it doesn't even go above 50, and 50 to 70 is the optimal range in
Mhm.
functional medicine. So just, you have to be an educated consumer when it comes to these things because it's just not enough. If you're in the gym and you're not putting on muscle mass, or you have no libido, or if too little testosterone can mean hair loss and too much. So it's a fine line.
Mm. Well, I know, Sally, you wanted to talk about BPC and some of the secretagogues, but before we go there, someone asked, are GLP-1s okay to use if you're 70 years old? Yes.
Yeah, they're approved for lifetime use. We've had GLP-1s for 20 years, you guys. A lot of people don't know it because they've really only been in the news the last like 5 years. But yeah, they were actually discovered in the 1980s, and they were first synthesized and put to market in 2004 with exenatide, which you guys was a twice daily injection. Sounds like a real barrel of fun. So it wasn't super popular, but now we've got the weekly injections and we have 20 years of safety data on them, and they are. I would start with a microdose. Whatever you're prescribed, start with half, see how you feel, or less. There's no rush. And you keep your doctor informed so they know what you're doing, because I'm a health coach, not a doctor, but that's what we do with our patients. And that's what I tell my health coaching clients to do. You can always inject less. Peptides are peptides. They can be personalized to each person. We're all a little bit different with our underlying diseases and metabolic function, hormonal background, and everyone's optimal dose is a little bit different. There is a max dose for every month you're on. So as long as you're not exceeding that max dose for every month that you're on, it's perfectly fine to go a little slower,
Mm-hmm.
especially if
But
you're,
I tell people the goal is not to go up in dose. It's to find your sweet spot
yes.
and ride that for as long as possible.
And I will say this about when I was researching GLP-1s, this is super cool. Is that GLP-1s are actually considered first line treatment for people over the age of 65 for blood sugar issues, for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, because it doesn't drop blood sugar precipitously like a lot of diabetes medications would. It normalizes it. So I always encourage all of my coaching clients to go get a continuous glucose monitor. They're over the counter now. You can buy them all over the place, like Lingo or NutriSense or Levels. And you can see what's going on in your blood sugar. And you'll see when you start, if you're insulin resistant, your blood sugar will go up and down, these huge peaks and valleys. And our goal is to keep blood sugar between 70 and 120 even after eating. So we want that to just be stabilized. So it stabilizes blood sugar. It doesn't precipitously drop it, which is really important in our older populations, because we don't want you guys having like passing out due to low blood sugar and experiencing falls or whatever. But yes, of all of the blood sugar type medications, GLP-1 is on the top of the list for older populations.
Mm,
Mhm.
okay. Well, let's talk about BPC or the Wolverine stack, BPC TB 500. We currently the injectables are we're not offering it for several more weeks, but we will very soon, very shortly. We'll offer it again. However, we do offer the oral pill. Can we touch on that? The benefits of BPC TB500.
It's been really life-changing for me personally and for a lot of my coaching clients. So in perimenopause and menopause, we get something called musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. It's basically everything hurts. Like where you're like in my knees, my shoulders, my hips, everything. And I was like, oh gosh, you got to be kidding. I'm 52. This is what's happening. I'm not going to stop working out. But the constant pain, the waking up with neck pain, just everything, it was really getting to me. And my hormones are optimized. So I did have a little more estrogen and that helped. But when I added, I did something to my shoulder last summer lifting. And then when I added BPC 157, oh my gosh, I first started with that and it got so much better. And I didn't even do that much of it. And then I added the TB 500 to it. So, and now I'm injecting and I'm taking the oral form. I take the oral form first thing in the morning on an empty stomach from you guys. And then I inject probably now I'm up to 4 times a week I'm injecting. I probably should inject more. But just, it is night and day. Like my functionality. I went to a party this weekend. I'm 52 years old. I was on roller skates all night. Yeah,
I
roller
believe
skates.
it.
I know.
I've seen you in action.
Yeah. And
Sally, I've seen you.
I was not in pain and I didn't fall and I was functional and it's really amazing. And I have had one of my coaching clients had a really bad ski accident and he's been using it for recovery. And he's just like, I kept telling him, you got to order it now. Like the sooner you order it after injury, the better. And he finally did. And he's like, oh my gosh, I should have done it earlier. And I'm like, I know. And another guy, he tore his ACL and he's in recovery too. And it's like I saw him yesterday and he was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And he was standing on his tiptoes for the first time. And it's like, this is incredible. And you guys, BPC TB500, they've been around a long time. They're commonly used in sports medicine. They're really incredible. They go into the body and they go to the places that need healing and they do their work. And it's
Mhm.
also, BPC is also great for gut health.
I
So
was going to touch on that, especially the oral capsules.
except exactly. And so
Mhm. And that's the second brain. Just touch on that, Sally.
it is
Yeah.
the second brain. It's your immune system. That's one of the reasons I don't eat gluten. And, I try to keep my gut health good because it affects our brains. When we take care of our gut brain barrier and that just barrier in your belly, it helps keep all kinds of viruses and toxins out of the blood, which keeps inflammation down because when those things get into the bloodstream, it causes inflammation, which causes plaque to deposit, even amyloid plaques in the brain. That's why we lay down amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's. It's due to neuroinflammation. So
Mhm.
keeping that down is really important.
Yeah, and we produce so many of our neurotransmitters in the gut as well. So what, like
Exactly.
90 something percent of our serotonin is
Yeah,
produced in the gut. So
in the gut.
very, very important.
Helps mood and sleep. I have been
Yeah.
sleeping better. All
I'm
right.
sorry.
I have been sleeping better since since I added the oral. I'm just like more is more. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and it seems like it's pretty good for you at all different doses. So I'm
It's
following
derived from
instructions.
the gastric juice of the intestine. So
Exactly.
interesting. And it just knows where to go to do its healing. Now, touch on the TB 500 as well when it comes to healing. Are you?
So it lowers inflammation and is also very healing. And it works in synergy with BPC 157. So you get just even better results. And that's what I've found. Like I was slowly getting better on the BPC, but then I felt like the healing just
Mhm.
accelerated once I added the TB for it.
Mhm.
It really did.
Yeah, it doesn't need some healing
I know.
inside. So Sally, we're getting close to that mark. We want to wrap up. Do you have any final words? Any last wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Well, I know this is a lot of information that we've
Yeah.
shared, so don't feel overwhelmed. You can always reach out to me if you have questions, and I'll try to look
Yes,
at
where can we
it.
find you? Let's talk
You
about
can
that.
find me on Instagram at Sally Doll Sykes. Here, I'll just put it, let me put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Uh,
Oh, Brenda put it in already.
oh,
Well,
wonderful. Okay,
she's
perfect.
on it.
Okay, awesome. And I'll do my link tree too. You can find my podcast and like all the things. That's got my website where you can book an appointment, my Instagram, Facebook, podcast, all the things. So,
Mm.
um, yes, that's where that is. And I would just say, yeah, just take one thing at a time. Think of the thing that's most bothering you and start with that. And don't be too hard on yourself. I know it's really hard. I think so many of my patients, and this was me as well, where I was just overwhelmed when I wasn't feeling good and it was affecting my executive function. Like I knew I needed to do all the things to get better, but my brain just couldn't do it. And so I had to learn a lot of patience and just give myself grace and just try to do one new thing every single day, right? Whether it's I'm going to have, a lettuce wrap instead of the bread, or I'm going to make a phone call and make an appointment with a functional medicine doctor, or I'm going to make an appointment with Sally to go over my labs. Whatever it is, if you just need help getting started, just don't be too hard on yourself. It's a process and it doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen. I mean, I know 10 years ago, I was 30 pounds heavier, type 2 diabetic, Hashimoto's, practically bald. What else? Terrible marriage, no libido. Y'all, it was a hot mess. It really was a hot mess. And so it can change. It's just little changes every day. And it's hard for those of us who are kind of type A and like that all or nothing thinking. That's how I am, black or white. Like, well, I should be able to do this. And we should ourselves into the grave. And like with the lifting, I ended up hiring a trainer to come to me once a week because I was like, I should go to the gym, but then I wasn't. And I was like, I'm gonna have osteoporosis if I don't get on this. So
Mm.
big one. Let's see. Cancer for BPC, I have not. No, we're not. Especially with the GLPs, those have not borne out in the studies for humans. We had the thyroid cancer in the rats, but rats have higher rates of thyroid cancer anyway. We're not seeing it in humans. That's awesome. Let me see if there's anything else.
I tried to catch all the questions
Yeah.
that were coming in. And if you missed the beginning of Sally's chat, Brenda will post this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
I think
Sally will be back. We love Sally so much.
definitely.
She's a
And I
regular
can't
here
wait to
with us.
try the thrill pill. And well, I'm like on everything now. GHKCU, PT-141. I'm going to get the thrill pill, VP-157, TB500. And we're just like, I
You
was
look
like,
phenomenal for 52. Just you wait. Our skincare is coming out in the next couple of
are you
weeks.
serious?
Oh, yeah. It's got all of the good stuff. NAD, and it's got tretinoin, NAD. We've got the ABCs, niacinamide,
Oh,
vitamin C, GHKCU. It's
yeah.
blue, GHKCU. That's a big one. Um, Spilanthol. What else? And then we have this technology that allows two grades of hyaluronic acid, niacinamide. I feel like repeating myself. It's got some phenomenal ingredients. The ingredient deck for this thing is top notch. I'm so proud of it, but we're gonna have that out in the next couple weeks. So we got more. We got a
I
lot
can't wait.
coming.
If anybody is more of an expert and nerd on this stuff, it's you. And I would trust with whatever it's going to be the cutting edge, whatever it is. It's going to be better than anywhere.
Yeah, the skincare is my jam. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously. I
Spilanthol.
mean, look at your skin.
Well, yours too. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
I
My
had
my goal
surgical.
is to look like you.
Thanks. Very sweet. You're very sweet.
Well, thank you all. Sally, thank you for joining us. And thank all of you, Trisha. I know where you're going after this. Look at you waving, all giddy. But thank you all for joining us for another educational series. We'll be back next week. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Sally. We
You're
love
so
you.
welcome. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.